Welcome to the Underestimated Club. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Alex.
We're two moms and founders who've been told you can't more times than we can count, and we did it anyway.
This is the space where motherhood meets ambition and where business dreams are built between meltdowns and deadlines.
Each week, we pull back the curtain on the messy, magical, and often misunderstood worlds we navigate as women who are constantly underestimated. By society, by systems, and sometimes even by ourselves.
No topic is off limits, from scaling a business with a baby on your hip to confronting bias in boardrooms. We're getting real about the wins, the wipeouts, and everything in between.
So if you've ever felt underestimated and used that as fuel, you're in the right club.
So today we have Mackenzie Hengerer joining us from the HR Advantage. Yeah. And Mackenzie and I have known each other online more than in person, which is kind of funny. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us more about you and your business and being a founder and all the chaos?
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. You ladies are amazing, and I'm really excited. And thank you for the intro again. So I'm Mackenzie Hengerer. I guess I am still getting used to the whole title of founder, CEO, startup. So I started from kind of grassroots of my kitchen table, HR Advantage. I was actually pregnant at the time with our second child, and I kind of had my world flipped upside down and my identity kind of shaken, and I left corporate world, but I still loved my industry. And I've always been in kind of the lineup of work where people were messaging me off the side of my desk saying, I need help, or what would you do in this situation? And I would always respond. And then I went, well, I want to do this more. And I want to build a business around it. I love HR, and it's simple if you follow consistent policy practice and it makes sense for business owners and it's not red tapey. That's just not who I am as a person, and it's not our team. So again, fast forward, and now where we are in 2026, we're all over. We're in Alberta, BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and we're supporting predominantly, anywhere from a mom and pop shop all the way to a large city of 10,000 individuals. And we're doing outsourced human resources, health and safety, payroll practices, and then all the way down to recruitment. So kind of that full employment life cycle for the employee side, but as well as helping our business owners between strategy, scaling, building. And I myself am even going through that now. And I feel very much as though I still have imposter syndrome when I'm saying founder and all of these words, and that I'm doing all these things. I feel a lot of people say you have a made up job. You get to talk to people all day long, but I truly do love what I do. And we've now grown, and I feel very much as though I'm copying Alex and all the things that she has done in other cities. But we had a really cool opportunity to purchase a building in our town, and it was an old bank, and it didn't have heating or plumbing or anything. And we do have it changing into a makerspace classroom in our basement, but then we also are having our own businesses throughout the building. So my HR business is obviously within what's now called the Vault in Fort Macleod, Alberta, but we also have really other amazing small to medium-sized businesses in the vicinity of what is currently a big old construction chaotic mess, but we're getting in there. And we have some other real estate opportunities, kind of things that we have on the side personally, but really the forefront of what I focus on is HR Advantage. I absolutely love it. I have an amazing team of 10, and we're all over. So that's a little bit about the HR Advantage. That's my elevator pitch speech. I'm sure I will forget many things, but that's a little bit about me.
Well, you a million places at once.
It was a good speech.
Yeah. And again, I love being in a million places at once. And I've said it to Alex, but depression can't hit a moving target. So if you're always busy, you never sleep, you'll sleep later on. And I think that's not the best advice. And I wouldn't give it to anyone else, but I love that environment. So, yeah. That's me,
I did quote you in a podcast. You will find that I did say that out loud.
I'm so excited. Again, that's not the best quote to say because it's very real. But I like to stay busy, and I think you ladies like to stay busy too. So
Alex made it the excuse for getting a dog, like a puppy in the middle of chaos, was because depression can't hit a moving target, and puppies are just moving all the time.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, you just can't think about being sad or upset or something's going wrong when a dog is peeing all over your floor. And
I mean, you can at 2 a.m. when you don't want to get out of bed.
I guess.
She's been sleeping through the night, guys, just so
okay. You know. You didn't have the same story with your children, so good.
No.
You with the dog,
True.
I
So
love
let's
it.
talk about some early mistakes that you see business owners
Okay.
making when it comes to HR. So, like, what would you say the biggest HR mistake you see is in growing companies?
I would say having nothing in place and believing in people and handshake agreements. And contractually, you enter into relationships, but as well as work sites, thinking this is going to be the best ever. You see my chaos, or you enjoy my business, or you really resonate with my culture. So I'm not going to put any of the actual legalities behind it and get a contract in place. And quite honestly, that is one of the biggest mistakes I see happening, and just not enforcing policy because you're in a comfort level almost with people. And, you're not saying no as much because you're trying to build up what is going to be kind of your dream or your business. But that is the biggest thing that I'm seeing, the biggest mistakes, and why we get called is because, hey, we're now terminating a person that was great a few years ago and is now causing chaos in my life as a business owner as I'm scaling. And we're not the fun people who have to come in and do that termination and help, because they've gotten into a really awkward kind of chokehold with employees.
Hmm.
So,
So what do you do when there's a employee who they've been friends since the start of
mhm,
opening the business, and then as it grows you have to kind of create that boundary? Like, how can you create that boundary from the CEO to the employees? Because that's hard if you've
right.
been friends and building tiny furniture for the last 3 years together at 2 a.m. Like,
Yep,
how do you
yep,
create that boundary? I'm not
yeah.
talking from
I'm going
experience
to
at
say I
all.
feel a little victimized by this question, but yes, I'm curious to hear.
Right? Right? How do you go from it's such a great question, but how do you go from this cool, fun culture in a way where you kind of all roll up your sleeves and wear multiple hats, to now you need structure? And that's where I'd go with it, is you need to create structure and accountability if you want to scale, because people love a cool boss. They love the fun, crazy environment. I still have that absolutely in my own business, but we cannot double our work and our output if we don't have systems in place and account. I always go back to the word accountability. If there's no accountability from either side, then contractually you're not going to want to work for me, because there's no, this is what we do, this is how we get it done, and I don't need to be micromanaged. Or a person says, well, now I'm going to do it again, because that is kind of that environment when you go from, let's be just figuring it out and building it, to now we need to create structure and compliance. So how you do that is obviously whatever internal, either it's meetings or mechanisms, but you do need to tighten up everything when it comes to structure and policy,
Hmm.
practice, whatever internal corporate jargon you want to use, that needs to start, and you need to drive it out. And you need to understand that you're not always going to be the cool, fun one that everyone thinks it's all great. And you're going to be
Hmm.
the difficult one sometimes for people,
I know. Well, I've
right?
seen this meme like on Instagram. Like there's a trend. It's like it's me being the villain, but it's actually just me saying no. And I
Right?
think that's
Thank you.
like kind of what like led us to this conversation today, is like a lot of the times I do feel like the evil queen that's sitting on a hill and
Yeah.
everyone thinks that I'm awful. And so why do you think that founders feel that way? Like I feel like everyone that's in
Yeah.
like a leadership role has probably felt that way, but why do you think like founders specifically feel more villainous sometimes than they need to?
Well, and I wouldn't even say founders. I would say anybody who's in leadership or trying to
Yeah.
grow that model of leadership is, you're making tough calls. You have to explain why. And if you can always root back to what's the why behind it, you're still going to feel isolated. Like you said, you're going to feel on top of that hill. I don't know if it's just 2026 and the political nature of what we see when we open our phones and how we feel, where you can just be torn down right away as a business owner. I walk around thinking people don't like me, but I'm trying to reframe my brain of, they don't know me and they don't know what they don't know. And likewise for myself. So until you know me, you've been in the thick of it, you're in my shoes. I I'm there to lead. I'm there to make difficult conversations and decisions, because other people aren't. And they're the ones who
Hmm.
wish they could start a business and they think it's so, so great, and you can just leave whenever you want and you don't have to worry about work in the evenings. And it's lonely. Like, absolutely, it's lonely when you're looking at payroll and you're going, well, we had a great month, but I'm giving it all away in labor, or I'm doing this. And um, you are on that hill, but you're there for a reason. And great leaders can really own in on that. loneliness and find people. I found, I would say, even yourself, Alex, and you find other people and you really, you grow around it. There's another business owner that's down the road with a bigger fire who's feeling the exact same way. Exact same. So
yeah, doesn't matter industry sometimes, right? Like the entrepreneurship in general is it's like a support club.
Right. We're meeting back by the dumpster fire and it's still lit up. It's been going there for 3 years. Everyone's there.
Everyone bring your dumpsters.
Everyone's smoking at the dumpster fire. Come on over. Yeah, seriously.
Oh my gosh.
That's how it feels. It can be really lonely and isolating, but we're in it for a reason.
So how do you know? I mean, you want to tell people your why and you want to get everybody on board, but do you find that boundary in transparency? Because we talk about this a lot, and because it's hard to know how much you tell everyone that would scare them, and they would never sleep at night if they knew everything happening behind the scenes. But then if they're not included in the conversations, they feel left out, and they're not up till 3 a.m. crying for payroll or, those types of things. So how do you find that? What's that boundary?
I think such a good question, because there's so many boundaries, and we hear it from workplaces where they want to develop KPIs that drive the culture, as an example, but they don't actually want to tell people what they're making because then everybody goes, well, we made this, but they don't see the insurance behind it. They don't see all of these other things that you're paying into, basically giving the government all of your money. As a business owner, I remit every month and I cry. And on the other side is, what do you share with them? So within my own team, and we share our service packages. Everyone knows what I would make from signing a service package, bringing on. We've just signed a really large, amazing city contract, but it was public. So my team knows what we'll be making on it. And I guess in every different industry, you need to know what you want to share and what you're okay with answering and being questioned further. 5 more whys of why is it this? That's the kind of KPI you want to share. And you should know them on your hand, 5 KPIs on your hand kind of thing, for transparency. Going back to what do you share? How do you create that? But when I did that and I started sharing what I'm making, and when we shit the bed on a client, quality, anything, my team felt it as well. And I didn't go there to, place blame on them. But when we had an upset customer or they didn't like the quality of work, everyone felt it in the team, not just one person, which was me. And when I was out money, or I had one client who wanted to not pay his bill because he just didn't like the quality of candidates on a recruitment side, my team was so much more behind me because they knew how much it cost, how much time and energy they put in, that we would lose money on the package. And the conversation shifted to what can we do differently versus you're the issue, the employee's the issue because only I feel the pain kind of thing. So it comes down to what are you openly willing to share, because your revenue is not something that your employees can justifiably see a large number and go, well, you're not giving me more money. If the culture is that, it's not gonna be great. And so knowing what you want to share is a big thing.
Oh, that's such a good one. I think that's like what we've been kind of struggling with lately is, so we have this government funding, and then we also have invoices, and then we have expenses. And so we've been having like some issues just with like the timing of payments and things like that. Like when things go out, when they come in, you're at the mercy of the government every month. And so we've been like looking at how can we tell our employees and explain to them in a way that A, won't make them stay up all night stressing, but also B, makes them feel like they understand a bit more, and maybe, I don't want to say be a bit more empathetic towards it, but I feel like you don't know what you don't know, right? Like it's easy to look at revenue and say, oh my gosh, you're making so much money, but then they don't look at your payroll costs, your WCB costs, your insurance, your rent, everything, right?
Yeah, all of the headaches that they don't understand what actually goes into the cost of running a business. And so when you're going, well, what resonates with our kind of industry in childcare, maybe it's enrollments and encouraging, active branding, messaging, and talking about enrollments as an ECE group, because that is something that is tangible that you could remember every single day as a team, that we have X amount of open enrollments and we need to fill these with this child care group. likewise for employment. And then it really just drives out, well, what do we need to do? We need to be louder about it. Come work here, come enroll your children in Saskatoon. That is more digestible from your employment group versus this is how much we need to have in order to get our grants or our space creation grants because that's a whole different language to individuals who are not doing what we're doing. But again, we're in it for the right reasons through all the tough times. So
Totally. I want to shift to a little bit of things that we've been going through, so you can just kind of give context.
This is actually just free HR
Yeah, I was
hour.
just gonna
Everyone just
we're,
get free.
we're very cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. No, I think this is a generalized question, but so social media is the best and also the worst. Like, I have such a love-hate relationship with it, which I think everyone does.
Yeah.
What do you think about like anonymous posting and groups and how it's changed like an HR landscape for a business?
Yeah, no, I absolutely despise it. And in whatever meta world was like, let's create groups where you can anonymously post as lizard123 and, say that Sarah and Alex are the worst people in all of humanity. And everybody, let's jump on that bandwagon and have 100-person thread on here.
Oh my God, did you write the post?
Yeah, I actually, lizard123, that's you? We knew it. We knew it, right? No, seriously, I think it's the flashback to having my very first flip phone back in the day when you would text and be angry and horrible. And now kids aren't even on their phones at school. We basically have a condone keyboard warriors as adults and bullying and harassment. It's a normal, natural behavior that you can go anonymously and have all of this and have no repercussions for your actions. Yet we're trying to tell, our own kids and youth not to do that. And so, quite honestly, I hate it. It's horrible. And I feel for when people go and post and they go, let me tell you about my experience at this place. And everyone goes, well, let me tell you about my experience. And then it just builds into this horrible, horrible thing to read. But then on the other side, I want to get my popcorn and think, well, how are you going to respond to it as a business owner? So we're in it's fun, it's sexy, it's disgusting, it's smut. It's not our magazine that we were buying 10 years ago at a grocery store. It's literally on Facebook every day, all day. There's probably something right now in our local Facebook group that we could be attached to. And it's damaging for your own mental health and your own well-being to see it. And we're a society that allows it. It's so horrible. I hate it. Don't lean into it. That's my advice.
Okay, but was your first flip phone a Razor?
Oh gosh, no. I feel like I got a flat BlackBerry and I spent all my money, but then I downloaded a ringtone and then the bill was like $700 or something. Because apparently when you downloaded the ringtones I don't know how it worked back then. We didn't just have Spotify.
Whenever people talk about a flip phone, I think of like the pink Razor, the pink Razor.
I had that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's like
the
the
Barbie and like a charm hanging off the side.
Yes, right?
It's
Look
exactly
into the
where my
Barbie
head
ones.
goes.
Go get one.
Yeah.
I think
I had the Rihanna
for us.
song as like my ringtone too.
Which one
Love
though?
it. But like you'd have to like put like a little charm on, but like you'd have to like loop it in that little side piece, and so you'd be like trying to like take a needle and like pull the thing through so you could have a charm on your phone. This is so millennial coded right now.
Yeah, it's the color of your background of your wall. We all had pink razors.
Right? Yeah, it was something.
Yeah,
I heard that they're bringing the world.
Yeah, they are. I love them. That was a better time. Media tearing each other down.
That was simpler times.
Can you imagine if there was social media like there is now back then?
Yeah. We weren't afraid to hurt each other's feelings and face to face.
So when you're recruiting, how much of it do you look at people's public persona, their social media, their things like that? Do you look every time?
So you're not meant to look, and it's very clear. And I tell people, don't be reaching out and, we have a mutual friend. I'm going to reach out to that mutual friend, because that can be very harmful for you as an employer. And if you say a person lost their job because they were seeking employment and Alex reached out to that mutual told their boss, you see those things happen, plain and simple. And then you're charged for those types of things. So the short answer is yes, because we've seen it. We know. You could still type in and do a Google search, but I'm not going personally on your Facebook and trying to find those things. However, you're going to see things that open your eyes and go, do you align with my workplace culture a lot faster? Or you're going to see a news article and you're going to say, well, we definitely can't have you working here right now, because that is a reality of what we deal with many employers, where they hire a great person and then, somebody decides to search them up on Facebook, but uses Google and finds things and then spreads like wildfire of who did we hire. And so you're in the industry where you obviously can do background checks and, vulnerable sector checks, which is great, and other work sites can't. So we know employers are doing it. We just say lean with caution from what is and isn't allowed. But again, it can really determine if you want to hire a person with their social media presence, or if they're tarnishing another employer. Well, are they going to do that to me when they're not happy? And those things, your employers look at them and they see it. If you have a social media footprint, they'll find it.
So where's the line between freedom of speech and professional responsibility?
Yes. So I would say once it starts, and I always go back to, we entered into a contractual relationship. And so you really, really, really need to make sure that you can have freedom of speech until it starts tarnishing names, exposing confidentiality or trade secrets, or anything that could identify a work site or a person who currently works there or doesn't. There's many things and terms that contractually you should not be allowed to do. But guess what? Your contracts at the beginning of your employment really do protect you as an employer. So even if you
But what if they
leave,
post anonymously?
Yeah, then you have to just understand the brand damage and what that looks like and how you respond. So you internally at a shareholder level or a CEO or founder, you need to have how we respond in any type of media, any type, as in Sarah can respond or Alex can respond, but it can't be Bob, because Bob would just write empathetic, thank you, we agree, So you need to have your internal how we handle any type of media response, because as you know, it could be news, it could be any situation. And then on the other side is you do need to have, your mutual non-disclosures, things like that at the time when you're entering into employment, because it protects you. And then after the fact, anonymously, you can go back to those group admins and report them. The group admins can see who these anonymous people are, which blows my mind that sometimes they allow the same individuals to do these things that are really dangerous narratives. But your non-disclosures, your clauses within your contractual relationships with a brand new employee, again, imagine that you're going through your worst breakup, or your friend went through the really bad breakup and you have to figure out who gets what sweater or who gets the dog. Now imagine that at the very beginning of employment, it can always end sour. So protect yourself at the beginning, have your non-disclosures, have your non-competes, dependent on where you are and what province. But more importantly, the code of conduct and how you handle that before and after employment and in your contracts can protect you as an employer.
Oh, I love that. So important.
Can you, this is like super off topic, but if you, I have notes, like I'm taking notes.
You're like, we need this.
If you
Bill us after.
If you have like contracts in place that have been around for a longer period of time and you want to introduce some of these new things, can they be done through more of a blanketed like organizational policy? Like
Absolutely.
because it would change things a little bit later on, right?
You can always change policies as long as it's not impacting legislation and you're defaulting to the legislation within your province. And so as long as you're making sure that, again, it's not defaulting against legislation, you can absolutely roll out a new policy practice. Doesn't matter if you've worked here for 25 years. If you're bringing in a new code of conduct or ethics or how we handle social media, you can roll that out. We had a situation at a work site where they didn't have a code of conduct. They hired us to do an investigation on unrelated. And in that time, there was a kid who was wearing something branded and was in a viral video of a person getting beat up at a location. And so in his off hours, drinking, having fun, they're young, 20-some-year-old kids. But guess what he was branded with? And we'll say hypothetically it said productivity. What does that do to your brand when people are zooming in and doing TikTok videos and all these things? So you do need to enter that in because you want to have your brand and your name out there, but inadvertently that that individual in that video wasn't even, he was just in the background, but guess what was right on his hat? That company's logo. And that video was everywhere. So yeah, roll out policies now. It doesn't matter when, but you do need to make sure, again, it doesn't default against legislation, and you're being contractually aware of if you had any other policies that could retroactively impact that. But yeah, roll them out and make sure you get signatures, at least an attendance signature. Many people don't realize that you can still roll out a policy or an acknowledgement and you don't need a signature. But if there were people in there in attendance, they don't have to acknowledge that they love that policy, but you had to roll it out. Again, you have to be that person making those difficult decisions. So
how do you have, like, you're so good at having difficult conversations. You and I have worked together where I've had to let people go and I needed a witness and all of that. Like, that's where I've really struggled with is in my business before this. I had never had to let anyone go. And I have gone like back and forth and like that. We're friends, but we're not friends. Like, I want everyone to like me, but I realize that's not possible in this level of work that we're doing now. How do you disassociate from
how do you just
wanting
remove?
How do you like leave your body
and
like
not
go
think
have
about
these
it?
difficult conversations, but then also just like check your ego at the door and say, this is not about me?
Yep. Well, when you live in a small town like I do, I'm not in a huge city where I can terminate a person and I never see them again. I've terminated a person at 3 p.m. and by 5 p.m. I'm walking around in the grocery store with my kids and run into them and they're with their wife, or spouse. And it's, I truly, when you say disassociate, I go into it with the facts. Sometimes we get called again when we need to terminate a 10-year employee or we need to do this, and it's going to be really difficult. I go into terminations. A termination should take no more than 10 minutes. If you're doing much more than that, I'm saying, what are you talking about? That's putting you into legal hot water, because it should be, this is what we have to do. This is the next step. This is how you leave the work site or whatever contractually you need to give back. And so I just lead into it with compassion, very calm. I don't match the energy. People cry. I've had people spit at me. And we've heard horror stories. We had another individual at another firm who had a big bowl of lettuce thrown at him. And so we always joke with him about it years later. But I quite honestly just lead into it of how would I want to be talked to right now, because I have to go home and they have to go home and tell their whoever that they no longer have a job. But we're also in this climate where people can go and find other jobs right now. There's work everywhere. I truly believe so. You may need to change what you're doing, but there's work out there. So just leaning into it with compassion. And yeah, you might be firing a friend. So bring in an outsourcing group or somebody else so that you're not leaning into the friendship conversation. And now you're in there for 2 hours crying at a termination that should have been 10 minutes.
But don't you think that people wouldn't get fired unless they deserved it?
Thank you. Their actions got them there. That's where my brain is always, Sarah, is when I'm sitting there and I'm about to do a termination and they go, this person's going to be really angry. I always get told by business owners, this person's going to yell. They're going to like flip the table. So I always think of the worst, and usually those situations are the calmest. And I just go into it remembering that their actions got them there, not mine. If I was clear, I held them accountable. I gave them everything. I drove people, process, and training, and all three of those things didn't work as a business owner. They're there for that reason. Their actions got them there, not me. I'm just the one, unfortunately, having the crucial, difficult conversation right now to end the employment.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Also, like, one bad apple can poison the bunch. So then
absolutely
make everybody else suck.
Absolutely. The one bad apple, or we see it so many times where you have a really high performer, but horrible piss poor culture by them. They are the mean person. Nobody wants to work with them, but kind of you keep them around because they're high performing. That's also really bad for workplace culture. It's not just bad behavior, it's everything.
Yeah. And the longer you let it go on, right, it just poisons everything. Because then some people think that they can just get away with it, and then it just breeds into everything. We've seen that. I remember when we first opened our first location, we had someone that we had to fire. And like, again, she met all the requirements. She was lovely at what she did, but she was a problem. And she kind of scared me. And I feel like if I, as the owner of a business, am scared of this person, like, that's like that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Mhm.
And I just
Mhm.
remember when she was let go, like the look that she gave, I was just like, I'm sorry, but like it is what it is. And
Yeah.
then initially I was so worried, like, what are they going to do? Are they going to go on Facebook? Are they going to go on Google? And then I
Mhm.
realized, like, sometimes you just have to let people do those things and then move
Yeah.
on with your life. Like, they might have a
Absolutely.
reaction, but normally they will cool off and find something else and then maybe realize, like, I don't think they ever realize they're the problem, but they go invest somewhere else with their problems.
Right, right. And I do just let people know when you're letting them go that, they have options to choose. Sometimes we're talking termination severance in that conversation.
hmm
So they have a few days to fizzle out and think and consider their options. And the best thing to do is not go on Facebook and social media and be angry at your employer when you're looking at a severance package that doesn't need to be outright given to you. And again, I don't use this language in my terminations, but if they're leaving and they go on Facebook, like you said, that's them. Sometimes you need to respond, obviously, but let them be and focus and regroup on and focus on your now culture that you have to go back and rebuild sometimes,
hmm
right? Go back to the people that are still wondering why you made that decision. I think that is also very common where people terminate an employee, good or bad, and then they don't go back to their team and talk about it. And be prepared that, if you do a termination, to talk and justify that to the team that's left in and dealing with it.
I
Yeah.
feel like every time, or like, I honestly think every time I've ever had to terminate people, and I don't have a problem with it because I think that you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And every time, like, any of the A players have been like, "Oh, what took you so long?" Like, they
Right.
know they're the people that fit on the team, they know. They might like the person of who they are, but, the
Hmm.
A players are like, "I don't like, what took you so long?" And then
Yeah.
the people that suck are like, they're taking everybody's time suck away, and you can lose people
Hmm.
more with it.
Yeah.
It breeds toxicity within
Right.
I can't
And people leave that culture because you allowed it. You
Allow
allowed that
it.
culture. That is a big thing. What you don't define, your culture will create itself. If you are not clearly defining what the culture, accountabilities, actions by everybody needs to be, that culture is going to create itself. And you can't just hope and pray and dream and wish that it's going to fix itself. You
Well,
need to be
and
the one.
Manifest.
culture, I
Yeah.
feel like culture grows, right? Like, as the
Yeah.
companies grow, as things grow, and some people might have been really good for where we were, but they don't really fit where we're going, and they don't match the new culture. They don't want to get on board, or
Right.
they don't want to drink the Kool-Aid or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
I love everybody has their kind of what is that you, they are a weed amongst all these flowers or whatever language. I always just say they just don't have a seat at this table anymore. And they did maybe last year, whatever the case is, but the direction of this vehicle or is just that seat's not going to be with you in it. And again, they should know that it's coming. If you're a great leader, they should know because you've talked to them, informal or formal. You had a platform and they know that they had to be better, whatever the case is. And so that's more performance termination. But yeah, they should know it's coming.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. You always have so many wise words.
Yeah. I just try, again, I try to think of how I was, let go as a teenager because I didn't show up one day to Tim Hortons. And, I'll never
Oh my
forget
gosh.
my first job at my friend's dad owned like 6 locations in Calgary, and I was let go because I didn't show up. Um, And I didn't show up because I got another job at La Zenza, so I really wanted to be
Oh
cool and
my
work
god.
at I wanted to be a mall rat. I wanted to work at the mall and not at Tim Hortons with these large clown beige pants, and I took the other job, but, even though I had a job, I got fired, and it was so heartbreaking because I loved Tim Hortons with the bread bowls back in the day.
Yeah, but I mean, like, oh, the bread bowls
the
Yeah,
and
sourdough
the
taking it
bread
back,
peach
bowl.
right?
drink.
Yeah.
Oh,
There was
so
there
good.
was there was no, like, all these fancy things that they have now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's even like firing like a client, right? Like I've
Right?
had that on, I guess like I hadn't had to fire personal like
You had to fire
relationships.
me.
Like,
Sarah fired me in the best way possible. I was very happy you fired me because it meant you had your shit together. You fired me, and I love
do we though?
that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
you
I feel
do.
like
You
you were
do.
so instrumental in coming in to help us in like a weird phase of growth. We were going from one
Right?
location to acquiring a second. Now we're at third, fourth, fifth. And I feel like that's
Right?
where Sarah is so strong is at her policies and SOPs
I
and operations and just like really just like setting the framework for that.
Right.
She's also really good at like the culture piece and like building up teams and hiring people. And I'm not good at those things. Like I'm really good at the brand stuff and like opening locations and whatever. But
Yes.
I feel like she just like she thrives in building like good teams. And I feel like that honestly has been like the biggest game changer and why we don't need you. I'm sorry.
I know. That's
Is
fine.
because
I
we
love that you
have,
fired me. I love that you fired me because it
well,
meant
we
that
also
you
sucked at paying
had
our
it together.
invoices, so I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry.
But you allowed that.
I literally allowed it. I was like, you guys, we will work with Alex for
I
7
know.
years. And
We will figure, yes.
I just
But I
love you
feel like,
guys. You have great, yeah,
oh,
you're amazing.
but I think, yeah, that's definitely like there's a hard part in business, right? Where you're like, you start something and you do everything. You do payroll, you do marketing, you do HR, you do everything. And so I think that's also hard is like, when do you get to that level where you're like, okay, I can like finally have someone in HR? That's
Right?
hard.
Well, again, I think a person in HR versus the question of when do I need to start focusing and having structure should be as soon as you're hiring your first employee and
Yeah.
not your 10th or 20th employee that you're then going back going, we didn't have agreements or we just hand check agreement and now they're coming after me for all this overtime or whatever the case is. So I think if you want to scale and you don't want to be in your business like a dirty sock and having to, you
A
know,
dirty sock.
a dirty sock. I love using that word because, we're proactive, we're, forward thinking. We want to focus on scaling our business versus you can be very much reactive and in operations as a business owner every single day. And you have to do that while you're scaling. But at some point, you need to create systems and people that you trust. And if they fail fast and you learn from it versus always being there because you cannot do what you ladies are doing if you don't have people in place that can, listen to Sarah's policies, roll them out, engage in that culture without you physically being there.
Yeah,
You can't do those things. So,
it's definitely
mhm.
challenging. So we're
Little.
almost at our end of time here. So if you could give,
Yes.
as a closing thought, like if you can give one piece of advice for
Yeah.
a business owner that's listening or someone in leadership, what would you give them?
I would say that if you're not leaning into the opportunities, even if it's not perfect, and you're worrying, just know that somebody else out there is already doing it and they're learning from their mistakes fast. They're then building their governance, their policies, but they're leaning into what they need to do and the vision behind their business. And if you're always worried about having it perfect and it needs to be absolutely amazing before I roll it out, you can modify things at any time. You can always say no. You can change the direction, but there's somebody out there already doing it and not worried about failing. It's going to be okay. You just got to pivot. Enter Pivot by Ross Geller.
Oh, we will be using that as a clip for sure. So Mackenzie, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, fun fact, we got the slogan hrbestfriend.com because it's easy to say. So if you want to go hrbestfriend.com, it will take you over to HR Advantage Services, plural.com. But you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok even. Look at us. We are so youthful. And you can basically find us on any type of social media platform and check out our website. We do 15-minute free discovery calls because sometimes you just need to hear that you're not going to be sued and you can make a decision and so we are there. We are real people. We will answer the phone. And we just have a great group of amazing HR health and safety professionals across Canada. So reach out to us. We're here. We're here to help.
But maybe also plug if you're going through Fort McLeod, where should they come find you?
Right? Okay. So if you want to stop in Fort McLeod, I'll tell you right now, Pedro Pascal was in Fort McLeod, as was Heath Ledger, as was Brokeback Mountain was filmed here. We've had so many just hunky heartthrobs in our little Hallmark town. But if you want to stop by and take a look at the vault, we're right on the corner on historical Main Street. And it's beautiful. Come grab a beautiful croissant down the road or something from our beautiful Dutch bakery and stop at the vault in Fort McLeod, Alberta.